program out at VW. Thank you, Knute, and your team so much. That's why you're all here, to hear from him, so you'll be hearing from him shortly. But it really is a great opportunity for us to do an event on this side of town. Often our events are at the Business Development Center. For those of you that aren't as familiar with what the Chattanooga Technology Council does, we provide a lot of exclusive networking opportunities and programming to our members and sponsors. We have monthly luncheons similar to this, where we present a wide array of technology topics and how technology is enabling your business growth. We have various programs and affinity groups, such as Women in Technology. We'll be launching an IT leadership and a security group next year. So we're always looking to add programming that's really driving value to you, our members and sponsors. So I want to just thank our sponsors in particular today as we're going through this program. Oops. I think I skipped right over. Too quick here. Our platinum sponsors, of course, have been providing support to us all year long as we deliver these programs. UTC, the Chamber, the Incubator, where we are located, TVA, EPB, and UNO. Sorry about that. Our gold sponsors, we have Chambliss and Bonner. They also have been, Paul Whitelick is here. He's been instrumental in leading the Early Innovators Award, which is a part of the Spirit of Innovation. That's a program that's put on in collaboration with the Tech Council and the Chamber. We'll be hearing more about that shortly. Blue Cross Blue Shield of Tennessee, Kinco Logistics. Marketing Chattanooga is a small startup that's located in the business development, and they developed our website, so they've been providing great support to us, as well as Miller and Martin. So I'd like to thank Craftworks, which you all probably know under their brand names, like Blue Water is a Craftworks, and Big River is a Craftworks. So you probably know all of the local restaurants, and they're a tremendous help to us. And a lot of our bronze sponsors, I'm not sure who was able to attend our program last month that was brought to you by Ardera. It was on big data, hugely popular, well attended. And again, all of our sponsors that you see here, CTS, Chat State, Market Street, Sovi, US Express, United Data, TechLinks, Moss Media, with John Moss doing our videos, and we're launching our YouTube channel soon. Info Systems, First Tennessee, MCA, and Southern Adventist. Without this wide array of sponsors from so many different industries, we really wouldn't be able to do what we do and bring programming to you. So I want to thank all of our sponsors tremendously. I want to make a few announcements about things that are coming up. I mentioned briefly the Spirit of Innovation and Early Innovators. The next month's networking luncheon will be back over at the BDC, and you'll hear from the 3 finalists of the Early Innovators Award. And okay, just making sure we're okay here. And on the following week is the Chamber will be presenting the winners of both the Spirit of Innovation, and we'll be presenting the Early Innovators Award. So please mark your calendars for that. It makes me nervous, I know it. Okay. The CIO auction is a lot of fun, and Knute Hilles will be participating in this, and many other CIOs in the room, where we actually are able to auction off their time. And it's a really fun event. You get to see a lot of different side of people that sometimes people think tech people aren't funny, and boy, they're funny at this event. So we have a really great opportunity coming up to do all that. I'd like to thank Jennifer Walker, who's with the Tech Council, for her incredible logistical support in putting together all of our special events, but in particular today, CIO. We have a great event planned for our Women in Technology in December. We are partnering with Chattanooga Women's Leadership Institute and doing a joint professional development event. We will have speakers that are talking about the Million Women Mentor movement on the national scale, what the state of Tennessee has committed to, and how we can affect change with women mentoring women at the local level. And we also are bringing in an executive coach that's going to do some professional development on women, how to be effective mentors. So mark your calendar for Friday, December 12th. It will be at the Chattanooga in conjunction with CWLI. So that's a great event. And finally, before I turn it over to Knute, I really want to thank Ryan Livingston with Tech Systems, who helped orchestrate this whole thing, working with Knute and his team and putting together today's event. So Brian, thank you very much for your support. And now it gives me great pleasure to ask Knute and his team to come to the stage, because it's really white collar here to hear them. So thank you.
Before we get started, I would like to introduce Abdallah Shanti. He's the CIO Region Americas of the Volkswagen Group, responsible for all IT North and South America and South Africa, and he's in town, so I invited him to join and ask him to say a few words. Thank you.
Thank you, Knute. I just want to welcome everybody to our beautiful facility here in Tennessee. As Knute mentioned, I'm Volkswagen Group, responsible for IT in the Americas. And for people who don't know what group means, we own 12 distinct brands at Volkswagen Group. We'll start with the Volkswagen brand. We have the Audi, the Porsches, the Lamborghini, Bugattis, Skoda, Seat, and the big trucks, the MAN, Scania, and even the motorcycle, the Ducati. So this way you know what group means. And we have big presence in America. Actually, 1/3 of the volume of Volkswagen comes out of the Americas. A lot of people, they think of us in the US, we're pretty small players, but it's a very, very key and strategic market for us. And Volkswagen is so committed to North America. We invested in this beautiful facility here, and we had a new product that we launched also in this new facility. I think it was publicly announced a few months ago. So it's really exciting, and I'm excited that we invite people in the same field with us in IT, the tech people in Tennessee. So we're not alone in technology here, and I just want to welcome you guys here. Let Knute share with you our journey from actually the forest, where they cut the trees, to where it's at. Again, I'm based in North America with the regional responsibility.
Thank you, Abdallah.
Here in the US, Volkswagen is shaping its future with great determination. Our new plant in Chattanooga is a powerful sign of this commitment.
will launch a whole new era. Thank you, Volkswagen, for being in America.
Whoever believed Chattanooga and Volkswagen, a dream team, made a dream launch of a factory and of a new product? That is only possible because of the close collaboration between the local community and Volkswagen as a team.
Hello? Okay. Also, warm welcome from my side. Welcome to Volkswagen. Welcome to our conference center here. And thank you, Axel. And when I see this video, it's always, again, creating goosebumps because if you've gone through this 6 years of build-up of the factory, thanks God I didn't show a picture of myself when I arrived here. I had hair like Bob Marley. All of that was lost during those 5 years, so believe me, this was challenging, but at the same time very rewarding now looking back. Again, glad for the big turnout, also glad that some of my team could join today. I want to give you a little bit the last 6 years, going through from IT perspective, every struggle we went through, everything we did, and hopefully you find this interesting. So let me start with the announcement. This is over 6 years ago. You've seen this in the video. That's when it was announced we'll be building a factory in Chattanooga. Why in Chattanooga? If you look at the Volkswagen brand sales in North America, especially in the US over the last 50, 60 years, you see they go up and down. We have had peak times, especially back when the old Beetle and the Combi or microbus, some of you might remember those times, but we're never able to get really back. And Volkswagen has a strategy by 2018 to go back to 800,000 cars in the US. To be able to reach that, there was 5 pillars of the strategy were defined. And one of this strategy is clearly to have a local presence, local manufacturing in the US. And that is why Chattanooga was chosen. This is why we're here today, to be part of the Volkswagen brand and the growth, hopefully, over the next years, and reaching those 800,000 cars that we are trying to achieve. Looking at the timeline, last 6 years on a high level, announcement 2008, a lot of ground preparation happened. For those who remember this site, as Abdallah said, this was basically a forest, been not used for many, many years, and that all had to be leveled, had to be prepared so we could start construction at the beginning of 2009. While the construction was still going on, we already started with installing our equipment. For example, our paint shop, that has the longest lead time, so that was the first building built. They started putting in equipment while we were still building the rest of the factory. Even the factory was not 100% built. We started already in 2010 building the first prototypes, what we call here 0 Series, PBS, those are all internal Volkswagen acronyms for the prototype builds, the test cars, none of those going to customers. And by the end of 2010, we were ready. Within 2.5 years after the announcement and the beginning of 2011, we built the first customer cars. You saw it in the video. Those cars were hold, and by the second half of 2011, we were able to launch them nationwide in all our 600 dealerships, and we had built enough to be able to really bring them to the end customers. And those really looking at purely from IT perspective, most of us started in 2010. We had the first employees joining Volkswagen IT in 2009. Chad was our first employee. He just had 5-year anniversary within IT here. and really, in 18 months, we had to build up the whole factory, the whole infrastructure to be able to support vehicle production beginning of 2011. What was the big challenge for the project? Not only for IT, but in general. We had a brand new product. This car was developed just for North America. It's never been built in another factory. Nobody had experience with building this specific car ever. So that was brand new. We had a brand new factory, obviously, with equipment still being installed and being calibrated while we started production. We had brand new parts that were sourced from North American suppliers. Suppliers never worked with us. They needed to run our quality standards. We want to do logistics. How do we want to communicate on IT side? And we had a brand new team, 2,500 people being hired, learning automotive, learning Volkswagen, and learning how to assemble a car. So all of that based on stable processes and systems, and that's where we obviously had a big part to make sure this is going to work out. This factory is a full assembly factory, body shop, paint shop, and final assembly. So it has all shops. Sometimes in the Volkswagen world, you start building up a factory, you start building assembling parts, and then you build a paint shop and a body shop later. We started from the beginning with the full production process. There was no ramp up, it was full speed from day one with all 3 shops. We have a capacity of 150,000 cars, and as I said, approximately 2,500 employees in this facility. This is the layout of the factory. We are here in the conference center, probably all parked here, or maybe some of you parked down here. Sorry for the walk. By the way, that's the walk we do every morning, parking here, going across the factory, the bridge, and you see what we call the spine. That is the nerve center, that is the central of our factory, that is where all the indirect people sit. So we have literally 5 minutes to reach any switch, any data center, any IT equipment in the factory if we need to. We'll be able to be there. We are really centrally located. Around us, the body shop, paint shop, and assembly, and to the south side, the supplier park. You saw it in the video already. A lot of focus when we built up the factory on green building materials and being sustainable. We call that thing blue in Volkswagen, and we were the first factory worldwide to get the LEED Platinum certification for sustainability and green building and construction. The car also, you saw it in the video, got the Motor Trend 2012 Car of the Year award. Has won several other awards since then, but this would be too much would be too much for this presentation to go through all of this today. One word to Volkswagen and the Volkswagen Group, as Abdallah already indicated. We're right now, the Volkswagen Group, not only the brand, selling this year 10 million vehicles. So we are with Toyota and GM fighting for number 1, depending how you count it and how you look at it. Sometimes it's GM, sometimes Toyota, something else, it doesn't really matter. We produced 10 million vehicles in 2014. This produced among those 12 brands. It's produced in 106 locations and over 300 models. So why I'm telling you this? Because this is, from an IT perspective, we are not an isolated factory here where we can just build up any system we want to run the shop. We are integrated into the global production network, and we receive parts from factories. We deliver parts to our sales organization for the spare parts that the dealers need. Everyone basically delivers parts, engines, components to each other. So I have here an example from our European, from an Audi factory, where we produce a TDI engine, our diesel 6-cylinder engine, just as an example. It's produced at an Audi factory in Hungary. It's being delivered to a Porsche factory in East Germany, in Leipzig. It's being installed in the Audi vehicles in the headquarters in Ingolstadt. It's being sent to Bratislava, a VW factory, being put into our Touareg SUV. and it's even being sent to India, to our Aurangabad factory for other Audi vehicles. And for our flagship, the Beta, we don't sell it in the US, in our Dresden facility, and the other Audi factory as well. Another example for Porsche, we are building the hood of the Porsche Cayenne, the SUV. We're building that at the VW factory in Bratislava, together with the Audi Q7 and the Touareg, all the big SUVs in one line, in one factory. The body parts are coming from our Volkswagen commercial vehicle factory in Hannover, northern Germany. You get some other parts and engines from Gör, and all of this is going to be put together at the Porsche factory in Leipzig. These are just two examples. Fortunately, we didn't have the time to do a chart similar like this for Chattanooga, but we get our engines from Argentina, from Germany, from Poland, our transmissions from Japan, from Mexico. So it's really, we are part of the production network within the Volkswagen Group. And this is just one chart showing Germany, how all the factories are linked together. And that drives how we run IT, how we define our, what we call the information architecture, the strategy for our IT application portfolio. So we have a group level, we have plant level, and we have what we call the shop floor level. So non-critical applications that can be down for 20 minutes without stopping factories, we try on the group level, on the highest level, to have only one time the application, the whole group, across all brands. We call that horizontal integration. For example, no matter if you place an order at an Audi dealership, a Porsche dealership, a Volkswagen dealership, it all goes to one single system, hosted in our headquarters and back in Germany. And this is where all the orders are consolidated. Because if you order a Porsche, part of that order needs to go to a Volkswagen factory, part needs to go to a Porsche factory. So this is horizontal integration on that level. On the plant level, when we talk about our MES system, obviously we need to have autonomy, we need to be able to run our factory. If we would have just one instance worldwide, it would be pretty risky. So we have a local instance, we have a local MES system, but based on a central developed, maintained and managed software from our headquarters. So they do the software release, the release management, and they provide us the latest releases, which we then manage locally, we implement it here in our factory, in our own data center. The same on the shop floor level. You want to run the body shop even though the paint shop is down or the assembly is down. You don't want to make everyone depend on each other. So you try to have individual instances across the shops to all integrated through standard interfaces, obviously, but managed as an independent instance. And especially on the shop floor level, we're going to have a special topic on this later. Eric Keaton is manager for shop floor. He will go over that in more detail. How do we manage this? We have what we call master construction plans. This is centrally application portfolio. It defines this is the application for this core process that you should use, that you must use. Sometimes, obviously, there's several releases coming out, and you cannot roll them out at all factories at once. So it doesn't mean all factories always have the latest release, but at least there's one standard defined. And we here at Chattanooga, as we were greenfield, we had the great opportunity to start from scratch. So we are almost 100% conformed with our group standards and having group systems here. That one does not belong there, sorry. From a software development perspective, what do we do? So we have core competencies, we have our core processes that are crucial and that we believe gives us a competitive advantage. Those we develop in-house. When I say develop in-house, I don't mean here in Chattanooga, but somewhere in the Volkswagen world. Some factory, some location, some brand has the skill set, has the resources. They have the best solution, and that is the standard, and then it's being adapted throughout the Volkswagen world. There are some areas that are not that crucial, that are not giving us a competitive edge, and that is on the HR side, on the finance side, for example, material logistics. There we go to solutions off the shelf they adapted sometimes a little bit obviously to the Volkswagen world, but then we try to go with standard software. For example, here in Chattanooga we have a big SAP shop, a lot of SAP solutions running our factory here, logistics, HR, finance, purchasing. So that's how we separate those two areas. This was now group IT. This was more the view from the headquarters. How did we build up the factory here in Chattanooga? You see a little bit the timeline, the pictures, how the area looked throughout from July 2008 all the way to 2014. How we were able with 3 employees to launch 60 applications within the first 3 months. We didn't even, this is still 2008, Chad wasn't even hired yet. He didn't even probably know that he's gonna end up one day with Volkswagen. So this is only possible if you have a big application portfolio managed centrally that is available for you, and you basically sometimes you just create some user IDs, you set up another instance, you roll it out for Chattanooga. So this, especially at the beginning, we had HR, finance, purchasing systems, those were the highest priority when we started. And we are currently, our application portfolio is around 200 applications. Group-wide, there are over 800 in the application portfolio, but these are the ones that we need here to run our processes in the factory. A little bit, repeat what I said before, 100% based on the group standards, trying to find as many synergies across the brands, across the factories as possible. Unfortunately, as this was a greenfield approach, and Chattanooga was not only from IT but also from a lot of other aspects considered to be a benchmark factory, there was the desire to do a lot of innovation. Not that we had enough on our hands to keep this factory up and running. At the same time, we were asked to do a few new concepts and try. Obviously, at time now you don't have, but nevertheless. So we, at the same time, we implemented an IT shop floor concept. Again, Eric will go over this. A lean logistics concept within our SAP world, and a paperless production. We were asked from the beginning, no paper in production, everything has to be documented systematically, which hadn't been done before in other factories. So those were some tasks on top of building up the factory. 200 applications. Up there you see just a small extract and how all of them interlinked. As mentioned, using those synergies worldwide, that automatically leads to the fact you're going to have hosting in Czech Republic, in Mexico, in Germany, Portugal, in our local facility, application support coming from all over the world. And sometimes you really need to look in our system inventory and say, okay, wait a second, where's this one hosted right now? Who do I need to call? But at the same time, you know, it runs for 80 factories, and if there's a bug, most likely China finds out in the morning when they wake up that there's a bug, and until we wake up it's fixed and we never even see anything about it. So a lot of advantages of having this set up as we run it here. Wrapping up from my side, what were our biggest challenges building the factory? One was the adaptation of the Volkswagen IT landscape to the legal environment in the US. We're the first factory in the US, so we had to consider laws like e-discovery, etc., and had to make adaptations to be able to be compliant there that hadn't been considered first. And those discussions with lawyers, they're not always that easy. Some of you might know that. We had an 18 months build up, and for sure the one parameter was set in stone was the time. The scope had to be adjusted to hit that timeline, so many times we had to run temporary infrastructure before we were able to go to the final infrastructure. A lot of transitioning. Even when we started production, we were still on temporary infrastructure. I know Chad and Eric are smiling about some of our cooling concepts we had in our temporary office. Gordon remembers as well, where we had to take turns in the middle of the night and empty buckets of water of the air conditioning that was running there, etc. So it's looking back, we can smile. Back then, that's when I lost my hair. All our new North American suppliers, we had to integrate from a communication side, that to learn our processes systems, for example, EDI integration, a big challenge to ramp up 200 suppliers who own our logistics concept and being able to reflect that in an EDI transmission. Training for non-existing employees and processes. So just, you get a system, you're told roll it out. You ask where's the key user, he's not hired. What's the process? We haven't defined it yet, but please go ahead, roll it out and train it. That's obviously led to training, retraining, and some of the systems, I think we've retrained 5 times by now. And still, the key users are not always existing, but you have a timeline. They said everything must be ready when you launch the car, but if the users are not hired, so that creates a whole set of challenges for us. Hiring the IT professionals for the staffing of the local IT, that was a challenge because obviously you need one right now. You have to build up a factory, now you need one. At the same time, you want to do the best choice and you want to take your time to interview, so it was always a small line of, okay, how many more interviews do I do and who do I take? So it was challenging. And I remember many times I woke up in the morning, had resumes all over because I was reading them before I went to bed, fall asleep. And that was on top of the project, finding the team and building up the team. That was exciting. At the same time, it was challenging. IT service provider, we decided at the beginning, and Chad will explain this in a little bit more detail, to do a service-based contract, KPI-based for all our support and help desk. Obviously, if you don't have a history of how many tickets, how many calls, what your issues, that is a challenge by itself. But Chad will go with us. And, as I mentioned, implement new and innovative concepts at the same time you're building up the factory. So those, from my point of view, were the top challenges. How did we reach that and how did we build up the factory? During the build-up, we had a lot of help from the Volkswagen Group worldwide, from other locations, up to 10 global employees from a lot of different nations with different skill set, MES background, SAP background, process background, that really helped build up the team, transition the knowledge to the local team here today. And currently we have 2 employees, global employees that are with us. The rest are all local team. I'm really proud of the team and all the knowledge that was built up and how we're able today to run this factory 6 or 10,000 miles. I don't even know how far we're away from the headquarters, but in a different time zone, we need to have that knowledge here to run the factory, and I'm more than 100% convinced we are able to run everything we have here today by ourselves. One comment I want to just do some activities we've done in the community. We have started last year in fall semester cooperation with the UTC. So every semester we look for 2, sometimes 3 projects we're going to share with UTC. We'll have some students join us and make proposals. Some of them is more research, some of it is really on site. Just in the spring semester we had a research project on 3D printing. We want to do rapid prototyping in our what we call pilot hall here. And we had actually already picked a model which we were going to purchase, and the students came back with a better model, and they made a recommendation for different platform after talking with the specialists in the different shops, and together with IT we determined we go with the recommendation from the students. It was a 3-month project. At the end of the semester the 3D printer was up and running, and the students always get a chance at the end of the semester to present to the board and to present their project. So that's been very fruitful, and we're glad to have that partnership with UTC here. Last slide, just on a high level, conceptually, how do we organize IT here in the factory? On the top, you can see Abdallah Shanti, he's the regional CIO, so from IT side, that's I report to him. Locally, I report to the CFO of Volkswagen Chattanooga, and I'm glad Uli just joined. He's at the back. Welcome, Uli. He's our new CFO. He just joined the factory at the beginning of July. Within IT, we have what we call in Volkswagen the traditional IT. We have IT technology and services, Chad Bashir being the manager. That is for all the infrastructure, for all the planning. That's running our operations, help desk activities, etc. And then we have our IT project, application portfolio management, where we have those for logistics, HR and finance, what we call the supporting processes, and also for the MES area. The new thing for Chattanooga and for the Volkswagen Group was to integrate operational OT, or what we call IT shop floor internally. So that is Eric's team, and that is planning and operations all in one team, but all integrate a lot of shared services between the complete team. So with that, I want to hand over to Chad. Also, just a small reminder, if you see him grabbing his phone while we talk, we'll ask the whole team the last 24 hours to deep dive into our network and our network configurations to make sure they work properly. We had some challenges this morning, so that's why we're a little bit looking at our phones sometimes. Chad?
Thank you very much. Welcome, good to see so many of you here out to support this event and really to come and hear what we have to say. Hopefully, we'll speed along a little bit. I want to make sure Eric has enough time. When I see this picture, it makes me think about precision, about passion for detail, about no room for error, about sleepless nights, about maybe a little bit more work than we thought we were getting into. But it's funny, Eric and I both came from healthcare, so I was in healthcare for almost 10 years before I came. I thought I was getting out of a 24/7 operation where life and death was what was going on, and I come here and it's 24/7 and it feels like life and death all the time. But it was pretty interesting there early on, and I want you to think about if you could start over again. I know many of you maybe were hired into your company, came into a situation where so-and-so already had done something, everything was already built up, and it's not often in your life that you get to come to a place where there's nothing and get to be part of making that. So here's a bit of my agenda, and we'll review. And the question you really want to ask you is, if you could start over, if you had a blank slate, I think most of us would say we want to create a masterpiece, you know. And this is how we always start off, and it ends up kind of looking like this. I get bonus points for having Legos and a presentation for my son, but no, I think it ended up looking like we wanted it to, but it was of course interesting along the way to get to where we are. If you had to categorize your IT or what you really wanted to do, you wanted to be lean, you wanted to be agile, you wanted to be flexible, versatile, engaged, and mature. And I think all of us want this for our business. If our business thinks of us, any of these words would be great. If we had to ask them an animal and they said a cheetah, we would be, hey, that's exactly, every CIO would say, that's me. Unfortunately, we sometimes look like this. This is an actual picture of me late one night in the factory. But you feel a little bit exposed or fragile, underdeveloped, nearsighted, and vulnerable at times. And we had to do a lot to overcome that, and we were able to do that by really relying on each other, kind of tearing down some operational barriers and how we had done things before, and really making Chattanooga a benchmark. So how do you go from this to this? And of course it took a lot of money. It did take about $37 million in infrastructure just for IT investment. As you know, the project cost over $1 billion to build, but we have over 284 kilometers of cabling in this factory, 16 kilometers of conduit. At one time, it's funny, there was actually a shortage of fiber in the United States, and it was because of this project. We literally had consumed all of the fiber in the whole country for about an 8-week window. And so orders were backed up. I'm sure it made all the fiber salespeople really happy. They got great bonuses that year. But it was really amazing to see that much fiber being installed in a site. We have over 300 host connections and about 284 access points. So we do have a high dependency on wireless. And then we have 2 data centers here. Originally they were classified as local data facilities, but we've since added generators in order to maintain operations and give us the ability to recover quickly for the business. So those were added about a year ago. We focused, in order to achieve success, we looked at innovation internally, but we also were careful on not chasing rainbows. So the technology that we looked at, we tried to always find stable things. In a production environment, you're always looking for the most stable. So we didn't listen to always the salespeople's pitch. Sorry for any salespeople here, but sometimes you exaggerate when you get excited. We didn't look for untested solutions that would keep us awake at night a lot, and we were beware of unpredictable features. You know, there's always a feature set that's going to make everything work perfect. We were careful to avoid those type of things. So we went with what worked. We followed the KISS principle, and we only used vetted solutions with predictable behavior and a stable temperament. And I chose this dog with stable temperament, but it's a German company, so perhaps I should change to a German Shepherd there. So let's think about our design philosophy quickly. So as mentioned already, we have a lot of factories worldwide, and 2 of our sister plants who were almost finished or in the process of finishing, roughly the same size production as us, is Pune, India, and Kaluga, Russia. So we had the opportunity to kind of feed off of their experience. We had some colleagues from those locations join us early on and give us the kind of their lessons learned from being challenged building up a factory from nothing. So then we did shared technology across production and office. This is very unique for Chattanooga. It's not similar to any other plant. So we tried to say, hey, if something makes sense and we can share it in a similar architecture, let's do that. So wireless storage, out-of-band management, all of the monitoring tools. There's no reason to reinvent those on both sides of the fence. So Eric and I have a partnership there on all of these technologies. And then we have something called the Book of Standards. Volkswagen does a lot of vetting, a lot of investigation in Germany and some other locations of solutions before they're deployed. And then they publish a book for all of the sites so that they can use this book to say, okay, hey, what works in manufacturing? And there's some additional stuff that even we're doing now to contribute to this. So the best laid plans, things don't always work as you see, as you want, as this quote from Mike Tyson, everybody has a plan until he gets punched in the face. During the build out, we would go find these holes drilled in the floor, and we'd look through the hole and we would see our racks below them. Of course, there was no protection on the rack when the hole was drilled, so the room would be full of dust. You can see the dust bowl here. We had, this equipment is running right now, so we had people that would go in and sand walls while the IT equipment was actually running. This was the kind of pressure we were under sometimes to deliver, even when the environment didn't really make sense. And then Gordon will remember this one. We had to deliver connectivity for about 400 colleagues that sat in the room where you're at now, in desks, all lined up around here. But we had no cabling here. There was no wire here. So we actually had a building, a Discovery Drive, and this little guard shack, we put a microwave on it, and we bounced signal off and delivered connectivity for these folks that sat in this building. So you had to be pretty innovative. We also had some interesting planning things. So you can see, it's kind of hard to see here, but we planned for this pipe to come through, and we made a little nice speed hump in our tray, and then they installed it just to the right. So we had tons of arguments about this, and then we would come in and they'd say, hey, let's just install it 2 feet over and everything will be okay. And then sometimes they would just cut our trays. They would cut the infrastructure that you can't really see here, but they shaved just part of the tray rather than ask us to move it. They just said, hey, let's just shave it and it'll be okay. All right, so organizational alignment. How do we organize ourselves? And this is typical. I'll speed up a little bit here. But so we have basically an infrastructure group, a security group, a client services, governance, and then your foundation, which is the service management. So this is basically the organization that I'm manager for. It's a typical, very stable type organization in terms of your ITIL processes. And we basically are, the key interface we have is to IT Shuffle for security. So we help with production security, and Eric will touch on that a little bit. When we talk about our service partners, the partners that we have that we really rely most on, of course, Volkswagen AG with the 160 plus group applications. We get some hosted service from Audi as well, and also from Skoda, which is Bratislava. So it's another one of the group companies. And they host some systems. They've already built the system. They already have the infrastructure. We just use them across our MPLS. Then we have some U.S. service partners, so we didn't do it all on our own. We have Volkswagen Group of America, which is in Auburn Hills, Michigan. It's our national sales company. They already had the exchange environment. They already had VPN, so we just leveraged that. And this goes to what Knute was saying, the ability to build up quickly by leveraging what was already built. We use AGC for our PBX management, and then for special systems like SAP being a core system, we use HP for AMS services. On the local level, this was important to us, and some of you will see your logos here on this slide, and I'm sure you're all patting yourselves on the back for being up there. But we really tried to use local. We tried to use local suppliers. We tried to find local partners to help us deliver service, and we use several of those local partners still now. So I know not everybody's up here, but of course we use a full portfolio of IT stuff that you've all heard of, Microsoft and Apple, and we have all these things. But I felt it was important that you see that. We really try to use local, even though we're an international company. We did try to do an operational managed service where we would basically have someone do all the governance. We did an extensive search and analysis. We had partner negotiation selection. Ed Stutzman, who's on my team, was part of that initial selection, trying to find a good partner to do all of our operations. The result, unfortunately, wasn't what we expected, and we never could really get them to move from being the rental car driver to the owner driver of a vehicle. So if that makes sense to you, we had a lot of turnover, a lot of challenges with that. So we decided to move to a soft insourcing model with embedded employees. So we provide the direct team leadership, direct management oversight focus on quality improvements and process alignment rather than fighting over governance. Maybe this is a strategy that works for you as well, but sometimes you have great partners. But in this instance, it really worked better for us to have these folks embedded with us. Infrastructure, so just a quick view of what we have. This is an overview of the plant. If you look at the dots that just flashed there, these are Eric's cabinets. We have the shops are divided into several different tiers. We have data centers that manage data rooms, then smaller connection points called intermediary data rooms, and then we have the production cabinets. So very diverse, very spread out, and it's a lot of fiber because we have distance issues with copper here because of the size of the building. Gordon will remember this, so we have a water-cooled system. There's no levered air conditioning units in our environment. We use only chilled water, and we also can go to industrial water as backup. In service, the shared storage architecture. With Eric and I, we share storage. There's no reason to buy two giant sands. So office and production systems can share storage space. And we have full redundancy between two data centers. One is located in the building, and one is located outside the building in our fire station area. This allows us to do failover without any interruption both to office and for the first time personal production systems. We also have some backup architecture we share. So we have an office and national sales company. We offload everything outside. And we have about 40 terabyte of data we back up daily. And then lastly, we do have some integration with the shop floor, so there's kind of a handoff point, and this is an architectural view of that. It's kind of a busy slide, but basically where this yellow cable is where all of Eric's stuff is, and the purple cables are the way I support him. And then we have full redundancy, so there's a lot of different equipment that goes into a production environment, and we make sure that where it makes sense from a job role and a balance in technology, we share that technology. And then what's next? So we're always changing. There's always things going on. We'll have some information right at the end. But we, of course, are going to increase the size of the building behind us. So we're going to take this building we have now and kind of give it a little steroid boost. And we're going to make it a little bit larger. So 20% more size in the building. So this will be an additional infrastructure. Continued vigilance and IT security. I think you guys all know that we have to step up our game in that and continue to. We have never done with security projects. So this is something we'll continue. And then capacity management and planning with increased agility, trying to be more like that cheetah and a little less like the albino bunny. And then we have the VW Academy, which was turned over to Volkswagen. It was originally built by the city for us and turned over. So these are some of the things that are coming up next. And with that, I'll give this over to my colleague, Eric Keaton. Thank you.
Good crowd. I've been to a lot of these CTCs, and we had a very good turnout today. So first, I want to thank you all for coming. I'll introduce myself real quick, because I know we're running short on time. My name is Eric Keaton, and I've been here since 2009, so I joined directly after Chad. When I came into Volkswagen, I started as the first CISO, and so I was in charge of security of the plant. Half of my job, though, consisted of this thing called IT shop floor. So I was tasked to work on this as part of my job. And like a lot of you right now, maybe are asking, what is IT shop floor? What does that mean? Well, IT shop floor is just like any other piece of IT, except I have a very specific customer, it's production and automation. So in the Volkswagen world, production IT traditionally does not fall under IT control. Falls under engineering or maintenance control. So as time has progressed, IT has become much more prevalent in automation and on the floor. So Volkswagen decided to make a change here. Like Knute mentioned, we're going to go with this new kind of a petri dish to see what happens here. They gave us a clean slate. So where Chad had more of these rules to kind of sort of follow, they said, go, figure out what you're going to do. So there are certainly best practices as a CISO, there are best practices to follow. We had some best practices established like in the traditional models. So we said we could adapt. And then we said, what are we? Are we OT? Are we operational technology? Are we IT? Are we both? And this last question is, what are you doing? You saw we had a lot of foreign service employees coming over. They were not used to IT showing up in automation meetings. They were not used to IT showing up and saying, hey, you're doing this wrong, but there's another way we can do it. So again, that was a kind of a culture shock from our side. So this picture represents, I guess, what everybody's view of it was. Everybody had a different perception of what it was. And so we'll go into what happened here on those specific points. So just to remind you, Knute showed you the architecture model we play in. This is the area we're going to talk about here specifically is the IT shop floor area. A little bit about what IT shop floor means. So, as you can see over here on the left side, this is what a traditional IT shop does. Servers, clients, software, etc., etc., etc. That's all the things that we do. I have 1,200 clients in production. I have a production network that connects to Chad. He mentioned shared storage. My team takes care of the same. His team takes care of the backups. And we share all of this. This is not typical, again, for a Volkswagen plant to have IT controlling these things in production. So what do we deliver back to the business? You'll see some of these things here. We like to say that we're where the IT meets the road, so to speak. So you can see here's an example of a SCADA system. These are actual PLCs that are controlling how a line moves. I'm visualizing that for the plant. Other systems here like business intelligence and reporting, we actually visualize what's going on in the plant so the management team can take quick decisions on what's going on. So we think of us as delivering the cockpit to fly the plant, so to speak. That's what we do on our side here. Of course, we're operational too. As you heard, we had some fun times this morning, but we have to make sure our infrastructure as IT works and it's reliable and it's available. So that's a little overview of what we do. What I want to talk about are the two things that we accomplish inside the Volkswagen Group that are considered new standards inside the Volkswagen Group. As you can see, I could talk about a lot of things. I could talk about why I have gray hair now. I could talk about many, many things. I want to focus on two specific points. The first one is how we set a group standard for organization. So again, we were the first IT shop floor group. I'll talk about how that is viewed and what we did to get that recognition in a minute. The second I want to talk about is IT security and production, of course, being an old CISO. This is close and near and dear to my heart. And we set some new standards here. Last piece of that is we want to give back into the Volkswagen Group. Again, we are connected as Knute showed. So when we develop something here, we don't just say, look what we did. We share it back with the group and vice versa. So we'll talk a little bit about that as well. So this is the turning point slide. You saw a lot of stuff about dust bowls, cutting down trees, building a plant. When I started in 2009, it was 3 days I was in Germany for 2 weeks. And the rest of it's a blur. The joke that Chad and I used was I saw Chad in the first 2 years more than I saw my life. And we lived and breathed here. And so the reason you may hear us go a little long on this presentation, we're very passionate about what we've done here because we put a lot of our time, our blood, sweat, and tears into this. So the beginning was essentially survival. You just had to survive. I mean, the deadlines were not going to move. So as you can see from what Chad showed, we were putting switches, we were putting robots, we were bringing stuff live when there was only 3 of the 4 walls in the plant done. And that was normal business for us. And a lot of times our old CIO would tell us he would see Chad or I pulling cable and say, I don't pay you to pull cable, but we had to pull cable to make things happen. You had to survive. And we were very passionate about that. So in this process, we started laying down some of the foundations for like security and organization. Especially in security, we said, okay, we're going to actually cordon off firewalls, etc., and implement rules that the group is not used to. And I'll talk about those in a little bit. But then we got to SOP, we got started production. And we started running all of this stuff we developed. And we started seeing ways for optimization, ways to improve ourselves. So then we started doing more like, it's a very common theme here, is continuous improvement in Volkswagen. We started this continuous improvement process. We start measuring. We can't manage unless we measure. And then we start taking action. We start removing root causes, and we start right-sizing ideas. We start right-sizing support concepts, staffing models, etc. So this is how we started with our organizational and security concepts. The first one is I'm going to share my organizational structure for my team, as you've already seen from Knute's side. What I have on my side is I have really 4 pieces to my group. The first piece is very traditional. Servers, storage, application programming. These are what you call your back office team here. They also do all of the technical planning. So this team interfaces with the engineers, etc. If they want to put a robot in line, and there's a server or a client behind that, we're the ones telling them how they should do that. The other side is what we call our three wise guys. We have three specialists that are set up basically that really understand the production process and how that system, the IT system, affects the production process. So they are extremely specialized, extremely skilled. Things like torque systems, electrical testing systems, SCADA systems, visualization systems, they know these systems inside and out. That helps us, and I'll talk about that later, how it helped us to insource and support. Then we have line side support, and a lot of those guys are here in the room today from the line. This is a team that is our first line of defense. They are on the floor if production is running, so they do everything from working on printers, troubleshooting network clients, troubleshooting, you name it. They get called to the line for everything. And as a lot of you know, sometimes IT can be a scapegoat. If it shows a red error on the screen, IT must have broken something. So we deal with all kinds of stuff like that. The team does a very, very good job of that. So that's kind of how we're structured internally. We also, as Chad mentioned, we use a staff aug model. So we do have some contractors that come in and help us. We also have a third level support contracts. Think of like you would have with a traditional HP or an IBM or whoever. We have this with automation vendors as well for their systems that are installed here. So let's go to our organizational model. We started out with a lot of staff aug, a lot of vendor contracts. The biggest thing were automation systems. We had on-site vendors for this. If you bought the system, you also bought the resource to come into the plant to support it. This is typical in the Volkswagen world. It was a black box. If you wanted to change the SCADA system, you went to them, they made the change. In 2013 and 2014, we went through a process of insourcing that knowledge. I challenged my team to do that without depending on the team internally. And they accepted that challenge and succeeded. So we basically do all first and second level support in-house now for these systems. We do maintain third level vendor support contracts, but what we did is increase our availability, reliability, and support and reduce our cost. This is an example of how we reduce costs. I won't give exact numbers or exact names, but for our electrical testing system, we insourced this end of last year. We took 85% of our overhead budget right off the top. My availability numbers are better this year because of this as well. Our SCADA system, we took 50% right off the top, just by insourcing the support. Our Poka-Yoki system, torque management, pick the light, all those things, 91% overhead cost savings. These are things that we're sharing back to the group. So we did this strategically though. Like I said, we did not want to come out and just insource the support and leave the business hanging. We provide actually better support to the business this way. That's our organizational concept. The next one I'll talk about real quick is the security concept. Two principles to talk about here. In producing cars and automation in factories, you don't always get to dictate that you stay on the latest hardware and firmware. Some of these automation systems are quite old. So a defense in depth strategy is going to be your best friend here. You can't always secure that exact device, but you can put security around it. We're also an internationally connected company. So I touch China, I touch wherever. I touch all these different places. So essentially we have our own small cloud built inside of Volkswagen. We said we're going to treat our production network like our private network, and we're going to treat Chad's network as the internet. We're going to treat it as hostile. Even though it's our own network, we treat it as hostile. That's how we started. We also had a high level of physical security. So this is an actual picture of all of my production racks inside the plant. Again, this is not typical in the Volkswagen world to have all automation gear sitting in a data center. This is something we kind of did here. We even have it separated between a production side and an office side. So we keep everything segmented and secured. We have physical security here, as you can see at the bottom, access control, CCTV, etc. So it's very secure. Just to give you a quick comparison, how do you know unless you benchmark? We benchmark against other factories in the Volkswagen group. You can see a lot of these, like I said before, planning and maintenance control, all of these different aspects of technology where it's controlled by IT here in Chattanooga. Of course, you have to do more than just compare, you have to be audited. So we had a very special audit. We have what we call a red team come in here this year, after they'd been in Wolfsburg or Volkswagen AG, to do an assessment there. These are traditional white hat hackers, these are not auditors. If you tell them don't hack your network, that's the first thing they're going to do. They really want to see if they can social engineer you, break into your plan, etc. So we had those guys here for a 5-day workshop, and we came out looking pretty good comparatively to other manufacturing areas. So much so that we were given a recommendation as to be the group standard for IT production security in all of the group. So that's a testament not to me, but to my team and all the guys that worked on that. But it's a very big feather for our cap. Those are the two things I wanted to share: organization and production. How do we give that back to the group? So June of this year, there was the first global IT shop floor conference. All the other plants in the world now are starting up their IT shop floor teams. We invited all of those teams to come here to Chattanooga. We had great representation. Over 50 participants from all over the world came to Chattanooga, IT professionals. We also had a keynote by Gartner. Why is that interesting? Well, Gartner goes out and they sample OT and security technology all over the world. They put a specialist here to come review our stuff. They called us one of the few in the States that have security as a high level we do in automation. So that was another big feather in our cap. So just to bring it full circle, I know you guys have been very patient with us. The two things I want to talk about here to reiterate is we set 2 group standards. One group standard for organization, how we support the business and drive down cost. The other one being for our IT security concept for production. And these are the validations at the bottom I talked about. So with that, I'll conclude my shop floor presentation and give this back to Mr. Hilles.
All right, I know we're running a little over time, but the dry run took us 2 hours, so we are significantly better than before. So just hang in with me for another few minutes. Up there you see a picture of our team, and as already Chad and Eric mentioned, we really are very proud of our team, and this build-up was possible because of the team. Many of them are today here and joining. Thank you very much to every one of you for the build-up, for all the hassle you went through with us and building up this factory. You guys are great. And we're really glad to have every one of you on the team. A big hand for you as well. And with that, there's like traditionally one more thing we need to go through. You've seen the announcements of the BSUE coming to Chattanooga just a few months ago, and also to get you excited as much as we're excited. We go a little bit through the same thing probably the next 2 years again, what we've just went through. So my last hair will be gone and yours probably going to be completely gray. But nevertheless, it's exciting and we want to share the new vehicle with you. So we have a small final video, and then thank you very much for joining us today. We're really a pleasure to have you here. And sorry, one more thing.
One more thing, sorry.
Uli just wanted also to say a few words.
So today I've done something which you as IT can't afford, which is being late. So I really do apologize. Basically, today I meant to welcome you here. So now it's pretty late. So I'm just going to say, hope you enjoyed the most bit of it and have got another good business day. Thanks, and now to the video.
Thank you, and have safe travels home.